मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः। सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सावरं जङ्गमं व्याप्तं यत्किञ्चित् सचराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। चिन्मयं व्याप्य यत्सर्वं त्रैलोक्यं सचराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवतां नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन कथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्ततामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्र रुद्रमरुतः शृण्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततत्प्रतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुषुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः
The last three.
यज्ञैरिष्ट्वा स्वर्गतिं प्रार्थयन्ते ते पुण्यमासाद्य सुरेन्द्रलोकम् पश्यन्ति दिव्यां दिवि देवभोगान् एतं भूत्वा स्वर्गलोकं विशालम् क्षीणे पुण्ये मध्यलोकं विशन्ति एवं त्रैविध्यमनुप्रपन्नात् तथागतं काम कामा लभन्ते अनन्याश्चिन्तयन्तो माम् ये जना पर्युपासते तेषां नित्याभियुक्तानां योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम्.
The verse is now the beginning of the explanation by Lord Krishna of the Bhakti Marg. So in this chapter, we have seen that Lord Krishna is starting off by discussing creation of beings. Then verse number 10 of Ishwa, from 11 to 12, 13 about the Jnani, 13 to 15 means of worship, and then 16, 19 how to see God and the attributes of God and how we can see God in a transactional way in our transaction. 2021, he was telling about Veda Karma, so how people can actually get involved in doing the rituals which are mentioned in the Vedas. As we know, the Vedas contain broad sections. The first section is Karma Kanda, middle section is called Upasana, and the section is Anitla. So the Upanishads and all these other texts of philosophy are in the last section. And this is also why it is called Vedanta. Vedanta really means the highest philosophy. And what this people is describing here in 2021, they follow the first portion. In other words, they do the Vedic rituals in a way that they are looking for, like Lord Krishna said, pray for the way to heaven. In other words, they want to look for how can I get to heaven and enjoy the thing I'm enjoying on earth much more in the heaven. So, in fact, they just want to amplify their pleasure in the earthly world by reaching the heavenly world. That's all they want. So, there is nothing different about them doing what they are doing here. All they are saying is, I'm going to do this ritual so that I can enjoy the worldly pleasure even more and in a more amplified way in the heavenly world. So there is a problem there because the issue here is that they are still functioning from the point of view of the ego. That the ego is interested in the pleasures of the happiness of the world, pleasures, desires from the various objects. The only thing they are now doing is that they are saying, I want to enjoy much more. Way in I'm going to enjoy much more by reaching. They said they reach heaven and then they use up all their credit and then they have to come. So this is what he says, coming and going, to and fro. Gata agatam. Gata agatam means that they're going there and then coming back again. Used up the merits which they have accumulated in doing the rituals of the, and then they come. So, what is the lesson here? What it's telling us is that shift your attention, this kind of ritualism, to jnana. And this is the royal secret. The secret, what he's talking about in this chapter, the Uttam secret, the supreme secret he's talking about here, is to recognize divinity and to connect with the divinity in all different ways through our transactional life and the transcendental, connecting through meditation. So don't worry about this. Not give you the ultimate result. The ultimate result is what? The ultimate result is that we want to merge with that essence of ourselves, which is the essence of Brahman. When we are merged with that, then there is no coming back. The whole point of spirituality, the ultimate goal of spirituality, moksha. If you say moksha is the ultimate goal, then what we have to do is that we use the right means to attain the right goal. Okay? In this case, there is a mistake about considering what the ultimate goal is, and there is a mistake about the means by which. So we have to be careful as to what we practice spiritually. That down to that. Yes, we've got limited time in order to practice. How are we going to spend that? So in the next two verses, he is also going to tell us what we may be, what we may end up doing wrong in terms of our own life. So if we got limited time on this planet, limited time in terms of birth, the human birth, as we know, is the most precious. If we fritter away this time which we have in human form, then we are making a mistake. So to recognize what is the ultimate purpose, to recognize what are the direct means of getting to that ultimate purpose, really the secret giving up. And in the next verse, in which we just heard, he says, "To those men who worship me alone, thinking of no other, to those ever self-control, I secure for them that not already possess yoga, reserve for them what they already possess." They are making a promise, saying, if you meet these conditions, thinking of me alone, of no other, and ever self-control, I will make sure that whatever you don't have, I will provide. Whatever you have, I will protect. So, promise. It is available to all of us if we are willing to turn our life and our attention in the way in which we hear words itself. So, what does it mean, Ananya? So that Gurudev is giving us two interpretations of Ananya Bhakti. So, Ananya, he says, person who meditate on me with undivided heart. So, Ananya has got two meanings here. There's the first meaning is that it can indicate a meaning as non-separate. So, Ananya can mean non-separate. It is no different. So, Ananya in this case means that those who worship the self as not separate from their own essential self. So here the idea is that we are actually um, worshipping the self. So we are not worshipping, in this sense, we are not worshipping name and a form in the way, but we are worshipping the ultimate reality, which is the self in me, which is the self in Krishna. So when he says to those men who worship me alone, what he's talking about in one sense is that he is saying that you worship that highest self. Now, how do we go about worshipping? But what it means here is that my essential self is not separate from that self, which nor is itself is it different from Avtara, nor is it any from Brahman. The second meaning is saying the Ananya can yield a meaning as without any other. So here he is talking about the means by which we are going to worship. The means of worship is saying that undivided, not it is without any other, in which case the term will be qualifying the mind of the seeker, and the mind of the seeker is not going to go anywhere else but remain on that name and form or that. So on the one hand, self essentials, worship of self. On the other hand, he's talking about the means of achieving that, saying don't let the mind wander off to on anything else, but keep your mind fixed on that reality. Fixed on that reality means what? Doesn't mean now and then. It means undivided, without a second, undivided, without any reality, mind stated, and in that reality. Very high state to it. When you notice your mind, last 5 minutes is of here, there, and so it's not even easy to keep the mind on physical thing. Forget about this highest subtle reality. Retain the attention. Here is asking, retain that attention self, then it that able to do. With that comes this reward, saying, maintain that attention of self without any hiding of it. And I will provide for you what you're missing. I will protect. So, in a sense, talking about another aspect, surrender, is asking us to say that now if you surrender to that self and you keep your mind and attention on that self, means that I am not now worried about what is the choice I have to moment. What is it which I have on and so on now? Could be or whatever in terms of your transactional life, for God He will preserve. So in other words, what He's saying, don't worry about anything else. In other words, don't worry about your transactional life, because I will take care of it. Surrender to the highest reality. In your mind absorbed in that highest reality. Don't worry, do it yourself. I will take care. It requires a high degree of surrender. Because the mind will try to do is it will say, oh, what about this? What about that? Saying no. In fact, if you control yourself, not control your life or your desire, but you control yourself so that you retain my connection, retain that connection, get your mind absorbed in that self. Don't have anything else. I will do. So that is what it means. And my interest Ramana Maharshi, series of lectures which have been recently done last. David got after you even very nice about the ashram, about Bhagwan, about So he said, I met a devotee and into the ashram. The ashram said, David, I want to word with you. So David goes to this guy and he said, to Papaji, a disciple of, and he says, we were there and you were kind of talking about something. Um, at that moment, my moment of realization, that moment, I realized the truth. And that truth has stayed with me 10 years later when I got the experience still with you. And tell me, how does it feel? Because he was that that you have this realization. What is your experience? And he says, look, I will give you an example. He was from Australia and he was in charge after the Aborigine that was. And he says, now when I used to go to the office before, I used to think about, oh, today I have to do A, B, C. Yeah. And I have to make sure that I have to call this person, call that person, have a meeting with this, meet that, and so on and so on. I had a full agenda for the whole day. Now what I do, I go to the office, wait in sense of complete connection with what happens. The phone rings. Somebody from Perth is calling me and saying, we've got a scheme whereby we are offering swimming pools to the county, that county. Would you be interested? He says yes. The mayor rings up the next day, says, do we have any projects? Yes, we've got a project. Just been called by Perth and saying we've got a scheme whereby swimming pool. Be good. Third phone call, I'm a contractor. We make special types of swimming pools. Yes. And within a year, what is that? I will take care of things which you don't have. Swimming pool, so what you. This is a real life story. It is not made up. It is a story which you can yourself check with. It doesn't mean safe, but the prompting will come from another source. The direction will come from. We don't have to struggle with our own mind and we'll have to do. Okay? The intuitive power becomes so powerful that at once you know what needs to be done, who needs attention and care, and what you need to do prior to be. Remember, I was talking about the change of the operating system. This is exactly what. Now, from the ego operating system, which is me and my, I have to do this, that, and the other, here you have lifted it up to the ego operating system, you upgraded it. Now, Lord is taking. The right thought comes in your mind at the right time, the right action will arise at the right time, the right people and circumstances will develop, whatever needs to be done will be done. requires high intellectual. That is the jnana. He's here talking. So attempting to stay in that state again and again, this is what he is pointing to. And this is what he's calling yes. Now, here Gurudev is also giving another interpretation of he's saying, actually, this is the secret of success. If you want to have success in your transactional life, here are the three factors which you do, which Lord Krishna has given us in order to succeed at anything in your transactional life. So, what is the secret? Is number one, consistency of willing and thinking, sankalpa shakti. So, what he says is, as the mind, so the world. We create our reality through the thinking. And if we create that reality through the thinking process by consistently thinking about something again and again, we will create that reality. Okay? One can say this is the power of positive thinking, or it is the power of negative thinking. You think negatively, 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 things will begin to arise in your life which are exactly what you're thinking. The same for the power of positive manifest in your life, which are. So he says, thinking and willing. Create those kind of thoughts in your minds. Because I say, I want to achieve this in my life. And what happens is consistency in terms of thinking of that particular goal which you have, no contradictions according to that goal, consistency. Consistency in terms of daily thinking. Consistency in terms of consistent, the goal is consistent, it is not wavering, it is not going elsewhere, it is consistent with your thinking, it is consistent with your ideal, it is fine, and there is nothing else which comes in that goal. And secondly, he says, pouring out our singleness of purpose in all its entirety. Here I have a goal, consistently think well about it, and I put all my efforts in it. So at the level of the intellect and the mind becomes focused on. He's talking about ananya in a different, no other. In other words, that my mind becomes completely focused on the goal, and I put all the efforts in terms of. And number three, underlying all these two is the idea of self-control. Without self-control, one cannot maintain the single point goal. Without self-control, one will waver and one will try to do other things as well. What is required is self-control, thinking in terms of action. Are the three says any goal you want to achieve in your life, if you focus on the only thing. I will make sure. In other words, here he's saying, Gurudev is giving us the interpretation. It's like the law of nature. If you obey the law of nature, then nature takes care of everything. So what he's saying, these are the rules which if you live your life by in trying to achieve a goal, set this thing in motion, the net result of that is that you achieve what you set out. He's giving us the example here. When water is let out from the height for the purpose of irrigating the lower plains, we have only to allow the water to flow in the right direction to reach the required area, and nature itself will carry it down. It is the law of nature. Water always flows in for a lower level. Just like you open the tap and the water will flow because that is the nature of the law, that the water has to flow from a higher place to a lower place. You're not telling water, come, you must flow downwards. You just have to open the tap. It will follow its own nature, right? So in this case, saying is that if you follow the law of success, the law of success means that if you put these things into place, automatic result is you will gain the success. What you don't have, you will get, and what you already have, be preserved because of the life you have. So this is what he calls yoga and kshema. And here he tells us that Shankaracharya ji also interprets this way. He says the power to gain, yoga, and the power to guard, kshema, respectively by Shankaracharya in his commentary. So he says, all the time, what we are doing from time to time, all of them can be falling into two things. Although things are different from individual to individual, what we are doing is struggling to gain something. And he says, whatever we have gained, we are trying to guard it. So yes, I've got a huge bank balance. I have to guard it, make sure that it remains at that level. This, that, and the other in my life. I have to dissipate it, nor somebody else takes it. So I got a safety deposit box so that the robber cannot get it. Try to preserve, try to save, try to guard it. And the whole purpose of putting the alarm in your house is to guard what you have. So this is what we are doing. We are acquiring what we don't have, and then we are guarding. And he says this is what everybody is doing. And these two tensions tear into bits the joy and tranquility of our life. We spend time doing this. The question is really, what are we trying to gain? What are we trying? So what we are trying to gain at the transactional level, only three things really. What are these three things? And Kamini and Kirti. Kanchan means material wealth. Kamini means getting for music, for art, for this, that, try to gain. Then Kirti, name and fame. Again, name and fame. Now to be at the national, it can be within the family, within the own circle of friends. So this is what everybody is doing. Some in your life and of course it changes throughout our life. You're young, so back get this thing and that thing, this wealth and that wealth, even pen. And then as we get older, change. And yet some people, even when they get older, they but this is what he's saying, are all trying to hang on to these preoccupations. And says that these two factors actually occupy so much of our time that we. So, in a sense, what he's saying is that this verse, interpreted in spiritual context, means that you have to try and achieve the highest goal through this sankalpa, through your correct means, through self-control, get absorbed in that highest reality, and the Lord will take care of your yoga. Don't have, we have. And in the second sense, saying even in the transactional success, these three factors or these three principles used to. So it's an verse, and it's saying that almost halfway between verses, almost half right. Says it is there. Reason is connecting mental and the transaction. Family is keep on making the effort because you they think. Okay, so the next two verses are going to again talk about how we can actually get distracted with various different. He says people worship different things, worship different things. Says worship those things which worshipping, you will gain them, right? But what you need to be careful is ask yourself this: what am I worshipping this time in my? What is the uppermost worship in life of this? All worshiping. Worship in this sense means what? It means ananya. It means that my mind is focused on that thing. It could be some relationship, it could be family, friend, it could be other. But worship in this sense means that my mind is preoccupied with that particular thing, or object, or circumstance, or so he's going to describe here. So where he says that this is the way in which if mind gets absorbed in me, in the self, this is what will happen. Now he says, if your mind gets absorbed in other things, let's see what happens. You're absorbed in other things. So let's jump. Then this is the misguided worshippers who is now.
यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेऽपि मामेव कौन्तेय यजन्त्य वित्तिपूर्वकम् तेऽप्यनन्यदेवता भक्ताः यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेऽपि मामेव कौन्तेय यजन्त्य वित्तिपूर्वकम्.
Even those devotees endowed with faith worship other gods, worship me alone. But by the wrong method. Worship many. Says, okay, in the last verse he was talking about worship, the highest self. And in this case, he is now opening up a new section to discuss the misguided worshipper. So, who are these misguided worshippers? He says, who adore at the altar of deities that preside over finite material gains, and is describing these people as who do worship the same altar. Not only that is physically possible, but it is psychologically absurd. All the people in the world do not worship it. So he says, even those devotees who endowed with worship a God, worship me alone, but by the wrong. So what's happening here? He's saying, on the one hand, he's that really speaking, whatever you're worshipping me, but by the wrong method. So how do we understand this? So what he's saying is that if we think about the principle we've been discussing all along, that the ultimate reality expresses itself in the transactional. In other words, God is here and now. God is present in the transaction. Ultimate reality of Brahman is present in the transaction. But we mistake the objects and the things of the world as objects and things of the world without making the connection between that and the ultimate. But the underlying reality is the same in everything. So what he's saying that when we are invoking with these various things with perfect faith, all we are doing is invoking the eternal truth, but expressed through that object. Okay? So what is it? It says that this infinite reality, when we accept that infinite reality, one without a second, which remains the same in the past, present, and it is expressing itself through me as consciousness to the rest of the world as, remember those things, fractional world, right? Look at any object, you'll see these five. The Ati, Kriya, Nama, Rupa. The Nama and the Rupa belong to the transactional. The Asti, Bhati, Priya belong to the ultimate reality. What we do with our limited equipment, limited understanding, we just focus on the name and the form and forget about the Asti Bhati Priya. That is the misguided idea of worshipping. So, if we just focus on the name and the form, then it becomes an object to which I am relating. But if I go beyond the name and the form, then what I'm worshipping is the divine. Remember, it says that I am the brilliance in the sun and the moon, brilliance in the sapidity, and I am the desire which is unopposed to dharma. It means that when I look at the sun and I say, okay, this name and form is here, the name is called the sun. If I look beyond it, the brilliance is the sun, is nothing other than Asti Bhati. So recognizing divinity in acknowledging the fact that this is nothing but an expression of. So this is how he says, you can connect to divinity anytime. Because he says, just like we got a Wi-Fi hotspot. Say, if I want to connect to the Wi-Fi, I have to go to that particular. So he says, no, you don't have to go to the you don't have to go to the temple because that temple is your hotspot for connecting with. It's the hotspot. No, all these hotspots are available everywhere. You can connect with God anytime you want to, with anything, as long as you recognize that this is nothing but an. Now, this expression of God is means that there is something develops out of that tolerance. Tolerance, because if we recognize that everything is nothing but an that ultimate reality, then there will be a degree of tolerance in us. That's by the way. Now, when it is talking about the devatas, because he's talking about devatas here, right? He's saying worship other gods. Okay? So this this devatas which are being worshipped, anya devata, these various forms of the devatas which are being worshipped. What are these things he's talking about? He's talking about these manifested uh, forms, manifested powers in the world. Now, in simple terms, what it means is these are the objects in our transactional reality. These are the powers in our transaction which we begin to worship, and that worship is coming from where? So, if we think about it, that why am I so focused on achieving this, that, and it's because we are looking at this object from a particular perspective and a reference point. What is this reference point? Where we are? Me and the ego, which has got a certain vasana or a certain desire, begins to fulfill that sense of completeness through the objects of the world, and therefore the reference point is the ego. Therefore, the mistaken concept is that this name and form is available to me to fulfill my own desire. Therefore, I worship those things which I lack, which I want to acquire, and therefore it becomes my way of that thing that I get this. So this sense of incompleteness is expressed as a desire in the transaction world, which is fulfilled through my action, and I acquire the thing I'm looking for to complete my this person in my life, because this person is in my life, I will feel more complete. I need this object in my life because with this object I feel more complete. And we go about looking for this thing, hunting for this thing, trying to acquire them, making an effort, and we worship these objects because they are going to make. This is the reference. But these are the devatas he's talking about. Says that method is wrong, and not only the method is wrong, but the vision and the understanding. Why do you think? Is because we think that in getting this object which I have desired for, I'm going to get object my life, and therefore out of that object happiness. Right? I'm looking for happiness in the objects of the world, not knowing that actually the happiness is different source. The locus of happiness is not in the transactional object, in the transcendental reality, which is nothing but mistaken concept, mistaken means of getting that wrong method, wrong object, wrong vision. in having those kind of wrong vision, we begin to direct our life in the wrong. Lord Krishna says, yes, that is fine. You can worship all these devtas, but remember that the underlying reality is one and the same. Underlying reality being one and the same. In fact, when you are worshipping these objects of the world, you are worshipping me. Why? Because you are looking for that which is in the ultimate. So let's remember that one. And he says, yeah, devta have the objects. Yeah, so in this case, devtas is talking about objects which we are worshipping, or the powers which we are worshipping, and those become. So here, saying here that the devtas are nothing but the expression of that highest reality in terms of names and forms and the various powers which are. Now, what does it mean when we say the, or why do we call the methods against what the law ordains? And here he has used this particular phrase, avidhi purvakam. Avidhi purvakam means the wrong method. Vidhi is the method. Avidhi is the wrong method. Okay? And this, what he's saying is that why is it that he's against the law ordained is explained in the in the next in the next verse, which
अहं हि सर्वयज्ञानां भोक्ता च प्रभुरेव च न तु मामभिजानन्ति तत्त्वेनार्थस्य भन्ति ते अहं हि सर्वयज्ञानां भोक्ता च प्रभुरेव च न तु मामभिजानन्ति तत्त्वेनार्थस्य भन्ति ते.
so these are the wrong methods. Now, what do we mean by wrong methods? He says, what is the consequence of following this wrong method? He says, for I alone am the enjoyer in and Lord of all sacrifices, but they do not know me in essence, and hence they fall turn to this mode. Now, simply put, what does it mean? It means that, that vision which was wrong, the thinking which was wrong, idea which was wrong, and the method which was being wrongly used, whereby we are focusing on the name and the form rather than the astivati kriya, means that using this means that I have mistaken the idea of who is really enjoying, who is the one who is really being happy. Okay? This happiness and the bliss which is not in the object myself, that is misunderstood. Is misunderstood that the ultimate enjoyer is that self alone. He says that having misunderstood it is hence they fall back again to the mortal world. So he says that all these sacrifices, I am the Lord of all these sacrifices. That's number two. He is saying, I alone am the enjoyer. So what does it mean? It means that he's talking about the two reference points, the two reality. On the one hand, when he says, I am the enjoyer, he's talking about the Satchidanand, pure consciousness, pure existence, pure bliss. And he says, I am the Lord of all the sacrifice, which means at the transactional level, whatever is happening in our lives, whatever is happening in terms of our own functioning, is nothing but the Lord of all the sacrifice. So, whatever yajna is going on, whether it is external or whether it is internal as a mental process, He is in charge. So is that if we don't know this in essence, what happens? We get downgraded to the reality of the ego, me and the mind. Therefore, what happens? We focus on the things of the me and the mind, and net result of that is we attain whatever we want to attain in this life. Fortunately, we have to come. Why? Because we have not attained absorption of the mind in the self. So basically, what is pointing out to us is that if the mind is not focused on the self, talking about earlier, this Ananya Bhakti is not focused on the self, then it is focused on other things. And these other things are the names and the forms and the objects of the world, the beings of the world. And if the mind is focused on that, then unfortunately not going to realize the true purpose of life, and therefore samsara continues in the sense that we are born again and we carry on the cycle of death, and there is no.
We are saying that he is doing. Actually, what we are doing, our mind and
No, so what he's in charge of those sacrifices. He is the supervisor, as it were. Now, when we come down to the individual level, so what it means is that what is making you and me function in terms of the body, mind, intellect is that highest principle. How you use this particular equipment of the body, mind, intellect will depend on you. That's why it says that I am the desire which is unopposed to dharma. When your desire is expressing itself and it is not opposed to your dharma, then it is divinity expressing. If it is the other way around, that a desire which is ego desire is undharmic, then it is not divine. But now what has happened is that that functioning of the body, mind, intellect is now taken over by the ego. But the power which is there is the same in all of us. Okay? So the electricity which is flowing in the heater and the fridge is one and the same, right? The fridge functions differently from the heater because the nature of are different. Just like your nature is different from my nature, because your vasanas, inclination, tendencies, and karma are different from mine.
and things are going the response. Right.
No, but right and wrong according to. So if I say, okay, I want to achieve these things in my life, yeah, things are going right, things are going right, but they're going right according to my expectation, right? When he says things are going right, what he really means, right things in the highest sense, whereby you're turning your attention towards the highest, okay? Which means everything else can be going wrong in your life, but you're going in the highest direction. Means according to him, things are going right now. According to you, things are going wrong. So it can happen that way as well. Yeah, yeah. So what he's saying is that I am the Lord of all sacrifices. So the sacrifices are going in the sense that you remember chapter number 3, 4, he was talking about the yajna, different types of yajna people do. Some offer the senses to the objects, and he's saying this, that, and the other, different types of sacrifice in terms of the individual psychological and mental processes which are going on. He says, I'm responsible for that at least. In other words, that is activating the body, mind, intellect to give you this life, because the sentiency which we are having now is nothing but the result of that ultimate reality. So, again, asti bhati priya, there in us as well. But we fail to recognize. We only recognize the name and the form. In other words, we think of ourselves as this individuality, this ego. So asti Asti Bhati Priya is that there is in every object, there is a sense of existence. Object exists. Okay? Asti. Bhati is that it is included in my awareness. It has got an element of consciousness. Bhati. Priya means that there is a sense of, there is a sense of an attraction of that object to me. In my ego sense, that is an attraction. In the ultimate sense, it is this. So what I'm looking for in an object is happiness, but it is expressed itself as priyam in the transactional world, but in the transcendental world is this ananda. So in fact, Astipati Priyam is nothing but an expression of that highest ultimate reality, Satchidanand, in the object as Astipati Priyam. You have to recognize that in any object. Say, beyond the name and the form is that ultimate reality in front of me. And it's given us millions of examples in the whole of Bhagavad Gita. In fact, it was the whole chapter saying, I am this, I am that, I am this, I am that. Why? Because he's saying if you recognize that, beyond the name and the form, you are recognized in the world itself. So that the mind doesn't go anywhere, it becomes single pointed. This is what he means by Ananda. Undivided attention, divinity in everything which we perceive and think and feel. This is the objective. So remaining in that kind of undivided says you attain me, but if you don't have that undivided, your attention goes in the wrong direction, your vision is wrong, your thinking is wrong, looking at the wrong objects, all these devatas which are there in front of you, focus your attention on that, happens, you get the result of that. Okay? So in the next one, of course, he says, those worshippers of devas go to the devas. Says those who worship me, they come to me. Okay, choice is yours. Devatas are, and how are you going to? Choice is ours. Worship the ultimate. How are we going to worship the insight into what to do with our, how to manage, how to control the life so that it always turning towards the reality, turning towards the self, turning towards. Of course, not easy. This is where he says that determination is required, devotion is required, effort is required, and the grace of God is always there. We make one step towards Him, He will take another 100, making it easier and easier for us to attain that higher state. Okay, we'll conclude with the prayers.
Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhave Asato Ma Sargamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Hari Om Hari Om